is a distinctive culture than the secular one. So what is culture? By definition, this is from internet, and they say this culture is difficult to define, just like I said. But this is one of the definitions. Culture can be defined as all the behaviors, ways of life, arts, beliefs, and institutions of a population that are passed down from generation to generation. Culture has been called the way of life for an entire society. So in entire society, there's something called the church for Christians, right? So that church has a way of life, and then you are taught to live in a certain way. You come to church, you listen to the sermon, and it kind of gives you the hint to that culture. So you, as a Christian, as a believer, are instructed to live in a certain way. And not only you're instructed, actually you kind of create the way of living. So that Christianity is more than a religion, and it definitely is a context, and it is culture. So culture is something that you don't intend to make, but it happens to make. So this is another picture diagram about a culture. Culture involves language, communication, and courtesies, meaning how to act, etiquette, and then rituals, roles, customs, relations, and practice, and expected behaviors. There is a certain behavior that you are expected. If you're a Korean, you're expected to act like a Korean and bow down 25, 30 degrees when you see an elder. So that's the kind of culture that we are talking about. And then there are certain values, thoughts, and manner of interacting. So these all, there are more elements than these that are listed here. And that's how the culture is formulated. And we are from different cultures, right? So, and the probably the best thing that we can do is to respect one another's culture. Japanese, Korean, and Chinese, they have different cultures, a different way of life, and it's best to respect them. And if you can, try to learn about someone else's culture. The reason that we need to learn about others' culture, so we can have not only the understanding, but we'll have a better relationship with the others through understanding. So culture is a very important aspect of understanding any person. So if you see a person, you don't just see an individual, but you see the culture behind that person. And that culture is not visible right away. It takes us some time to review and view and understand a certain culture. So when you see a person, you're trying to see a culture. When we are a Christian, we have that culture behind us. And that culture has to be a positive one. So if you go to church, each church has a different culture, and that culture speaks a lot. And we want to see a positive culture. Some churches I've been to, even though they say they are all believers, the culture I see is not so favorable, which means somebody's doing something wrong, and that's very critical. So just I'll speak for Korean church. Korean church never speaks the church or Christianity as a culture. I mean, that has not been done. But I suggest strongly that we should be able to see the culture, the Christianity as a culture, because when you become a believer and when you come to a local church, you're learning that different culture, because there's a different lifestyle, and many times it's not so encouraging to say, but the culture we see in our local churches are not so favorable. See, as a parent, see, can I put my children in this particular church that is saying, can I accept the culture in that church? And there are some questions following that question. So that is important. Now, the culture of Christianity established these things: the customs, arts, world institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, which is a kingdom of God, and the particular people, which is a Christian, or other social group, which is a church. So Christianity as a culture, we are creating a nation and the people and society, community that has a particular custom, arts, and arts like music, Christian music, hymns, and the social institutions, which called the local church is one of the social institutions, and probably also family. Oops. This is an everyone. Please excuse me. 제가 지금 강의 중이거든요. 브레이크 시간에 다시 좀. I'm sorry. So there's Christianity is not just a religion. It's not just coming to church to worship. It's more than that. It's a culture. Because it is a culture, there's a certain lifestyle for a Christian or a group of believers as a community. So when you become a Christian, many churches ask you to do away with certain things. For example, in a Korean church, drinking alcohol is not recommended, and many times you are discouraged to drinking of any alcohol, even like a beer, right? And also in Korean church, the church expects you to quit smoking, and that's some no-nos, and these days people quit smoking for some other reasons as well, but in old days in Korean church, you're not to smoke, not to drink. These are a couple things that you immediately ask to change your lifestyle. So the lifestyle, the way in which a person or group lives, that's the definition of lifestyle. And also another definition from the dictionary, English dictionary, says the lifestyle is the habits and the attitudes, taste, moral standard, economic level, and etc. that together constitute the mode of living of an individual or group. So there's an individual lifestyle, and there is a certain lifestyle a group kind of participates. For example, the dressing code, how you dress, can create a lifestyle. And what you eat and how you eat, that's a very important part of your lifestyle. Many Asians who come to the States, then they begin learning to eat some Western food, right? Hamburgers and all those things, spaghettis and pizza and these things. And your lifestyle kind of changes by what you're eating. Because when you try to eat, you may go to a restaurant, and the restaurant has a certainly different the atmosphere, and it is different lifestyle. So lifestyle changes if you move. Same thing happens when you become a Christian. So I believe, and the Bible teaches us that lifestyle, the Christian lifestyle is positive one, very happy one, and it should be. But in reality, the lifestyle, some those who are coming to church and as a Christian, their lifestyle remains the same as before, and sometimes it causes some trouble because the Bible strongly demands us to change the lifestyle. So lifestyle involves these things: work, health, friendship, and career, and how you spend the time, and how you act with the family. So when you become a Christian, first thing that your lifestyle should change is family. And many times we do not teach those things. That's our pastor's responsibility, and many pastors does not regard the family life as a part of very important Christian tradition or lifestyle. Or else even the careers. I'll just speak for Korean church. Korean church, I've been Christian for more than 40 years. And the thing, you hear this sermon, but I don't remember that many pastors talking about the careers, how you should see the career in Christian way, and how your lifestyle in a workplace should change because you are a Christian. So these things are very important part of being a Christian, because we just looked at, Christianity is a culture, and all the culture involves these things, and it appears as the actions and the words in your lifestyle. So people look at our lifestyle, how we live in these areas, and they kind of decide and they make a judgment whether you're good or bad. So not only we should say Christianity witnessing Jesus Christ not only in words, but it is important how Christians behave and show and live. So everyday life, the routine has to be so-called Christian, not only in a church, but daily routine life, workplace, the customers that you reacted to, and at schools, you are always Christian. And that's kind of hard, but it is the right way to live. And now, Christian lifestyle. How is the Christian lifestyle? So Christianity as it redefines these things, just like we looked at family, career, even entertainment. I'm not saying, as a pastor, I'm not saying you shouldn't watch these things, or you should not listen to those music. You should listen. You cannot avoid to listen to certain music and the things on TV. But Christian has a certain perspective, and the perspective changes. Before, you just look at those things put on TV, movies, and music without any thoughts. You accept it. But as a believer and Christian. Now, Christian lifestyle says this is good, this is not good. So you are able to discern and make a judgment, right? And the marriage, if you become a Christian, marriage becomes a big thing. It's a big event in your life. And the Bible is very concerned about who you marry and how you live your life as a marriage life as a Christian. So marriage is totally different. And the Bible teaches us a Christian should marry another Christian believer. There are some reasons doing that. And also, there's only one wife and one husband. And Christianity strongly suggests not to divorce. If you have to divorce, there are certain conditions for the divorce. So, once you are married, Christianity says you should not break up and you should continue to live bearing one another. And we can have a whole class about the marriage and all things because that's a very important thing. But you are looking at with a very different perspective on marriage once you become a Christian. And also community. Your community is there to you to serve. So that's different perspective. Many things before you become a Christian, the community should serve you, and you think you deserve all the services that the community provide, whether it's social security or whether it's a free medical service or even free food. The community serves you. That's America. But the Christianity says you are there to serve your neighbors, your community. So the Bible says love your neighbors. That means you are going to give your time, your energy, your resources, whatever available for the community. Because in every community, whether it's in America or in Africa, there are people who are in need. Because in the Bible, the orphans and the widows, they are the ones who need all these services. And in America still, there are many who are in need. So, as a Christian, the perspective, your lifestyle toward the community should change, right? And the friendship also changes. So all these things changes as you become a believer. So many perception, those who has never been to church or do not have a deep understanding of Christianity think as Christian comes to church every Sunday to have a worship, and then they donate some money to run that Christian business. Business called the church, and then you go back and at church you are expecting those blessings, and God is giving all those blessings, and Christians are happy. So that's kind of a perspective secular non-believers have, but that's not really true. The Christianity is quite different from what you may perceive as a non-believer. So I am doing this class. If you're not a believer, you will have a true, proper presentation of Christianity. So even if you don't become a believer or a Christian, you still have a full understanding and perspective on the Christianity. So those misunderstandings or distortion may go away through this class. So our Christian lifestyle speaks much louder than our Christian vocabulary. Okay, this for us believers, and it is important to live a lifestyle according to what the Bible teaches us. See, 1 Corinthians 7:35. This is from Bible, New Testament, and this is when the Saint Paul, tells to Corinthian church. So that's written like almost 2,000 years ago, and he's saying, "I am saying this for your own good, not to restrict you, but that you may live in a right way, in undivided devotion to the Lord." So that's the heart of lifestyle that we are talking. If you just focus on the God, Jesus Christ, the lifestyle of Jesus Christ, you cannot fail. I mean, you will be a great witness to others, because Jesus Christ, I mean, he lived a perfect life as a human being. So if you follow him, you cannot fail. That's why the Christians study in the New Testament and the teaching of Jesus, so we can follow him. Now, Christianity is a lifestyle. Now, what is a Christianity? Christianity is a philosophy, and it's a well-organized system of philosophy, and it is long time thought, the result of a long thoughts and discussions and experience. So what is philosophy? Philosophy is these many things. It's a thinking, argument, cause, there are like a Plato, Kant, and all these philosopher laws. And so the reasoning, these involves all these things, okay? Now, we know this, right? Is his thinking, something, where are my glasses? But I don't know what he is thinking. It's a famous, the sculpture by Lordland, right? And I mean, when you're thinking like this, you're thinking of something of value. You should, and that's philosophy. It's a pursuit of wisdom. Pursuit of wisdom. This is a dictionary definition, not my definition. But dictionary says a search for a general understanding of values and reality by chiefly speculating rather than observational means. So by this definition, philosophy is a speculation, is a guessing in easy word. So people kind of guess, well, what is this? Well, what's the meaning of life? Well, why these things happen? So you're thinking deep and speculate. That's how the dictionary defines the philosophy. Also, it's an analysis of the ground of and concepts expressing fundamental beliefs, basic beliefs on how we see and understand about human being. In the ancient Roman age, they thought that life is not worth that much. I mean, the life, physical life. So they regarded the life very cheaply. So killing someone wasn't that big a defense. And they thought in the old days, babies, they are not important. Children were not important in Roman days, early Roman days. And then that changes later on as Roman Empire accepts Christianity as a national religion. And all these things change. But before that, they had very less regard for the human life, and especially for the little ones, babies. And so those are like a fundamental beliefs. So philosophy and the worldview is very closely connected. And the philosophy is an inner part of that worldview. So the worldview, way you see the things around you, closely has to do with your value and your philosophy. So this philosophy involves the value. What is important in your life? What is not important in your life? What are some things that you value? There are things that you do not value. And many times what you say is not exactly what you believe. See, that's a human being. And people does not know you as much as you know yourself. And the thing is, you're the only one who can be really true to yourself. And it is God who knows you better than you know yourself. That's how the Christians believe. So God knows you better than you know yourself. But you are the one who knows of your heart, what you believe, what your motive is. So people are driven by their motive. And that motive is in your heart. And you actually do what your heart says to you. But the funny thing is, many times you may not realize what your heart is. But when you sit and think, that's where philosophy comes in. When you sit and think deeply and evaluate yourself, and you come to the conclusion, and you are able to see real you. So that's why the meditation is important, whether you're a Christian or not. I mean, if you practice meditation, you go deep into yourself, and you are able to see really who you are. And a Christian meditation is even deeper because you are eventually able to see how God sees you. That's the difference between how you are seeing yourself. I mean, still, there are those parts that is hidden to you. It's funny, but there is that hidden part that you're not able to see. For example, your experience as a child, if it's a really bad one, many times you just cover it up. You don't try to remember. You try to forget it, but it is still there. And those things to survive, you try to hide it. And when you are speaking to God, looking into you, be yourself, and those things come out. So that's why we believe in a certain religion, and especially in God for us Christians. So philosophy is important. And Christianity is a philosophy. So it provides reasons and explains a phenomenon around you, and it interprets your life, and it reasons your existence and explains reality. So these are the key. I mean, it's pretty much the same function as a worldview, but because philosophy is a very critical, important part of worldview. Many kind of overlaps. But again, it provides reasons. I mean, for example, you have an earthquake. I mean, living in Southern California, you cannot avoid experiencing these earthquakes. And I have experienced one big one in North Region 1. Even though I live in Orange County, that was pretty big. I mean, in Korea you never experienced those, and I come in the States, and the very next year that happened. So, you don't expect your bed to jump up and down, and that happens. So when that happens, many people in ancient days ask why the earthquake, why the hurricane, And why a tornado comes through and rips apart a whole town? So these are the questions, and the philosophy says there are certain reasons. And now, what we are seeing is a science trying to do the work of philosophy, which is never the possibility. As I'm a learned person, the natural science that we study, physics, chemistry, and biology, these things may explain how things go, but it's not going to be able to explain the reasons for the things that are happening. There's many phenomena or the things happening around you that you may not be able to explain. For example, you have dreams, and some of you may experience the dreaming of something that is going to happen in the future. And when that comes, how are we going to be able to explain that? Those paranormal activities and the things that are happening, you cannot explain it with the science or natural science, so-called. And philosophy, it not only interprets life, it reasons for your existence. When you lose the reason for your existence, the suicide may be an option. So, the religion and your philosophy, or even sometimes your lifestyle, gives a reason for your existence. That's why some people just spend money and buy things, because by doing the shopping and spending money, they find a reason for existence. That's sad, but that's why some people want to become rich, no matter what, and they're using all the means, because their reason for existence is just buying things and giving some satisfaction of desire. And again, it explains your reality. Sometimes your child gets sick, and your mom and dad may pass earlier than expected. No, and then you say, why these things happen to me? You don't care about the world going crazy and somebody getting killed by a crazy shooter, but when those things happen to you, and you need an explanation. So those are the reasons for reality, because the reality is not dream, it's not ideal. In reality, these bad things happen. Even though good things happen, still there are bad things, and there are troubles, and there are difficulties. And philosophy says this is why you have to, why the reality is so and so. So philosophy is a great part in your life, and sadly, many people today, especially the young people, do not have this philosophy. They just live as the world tells them to live, and that's not good, because the world, especially in capitalism, commercialism, they say the money is everything. If you have money, you are going to be happy, which is never true. And that they are listening to this, and then they only fall into these games and video games. And the video games doesn't teach you any philosophy. It may teach you some skills or tactics or strategy, but there's no philosophy in killing 100 per game. That's not. Maybe the philosophy says you can kill. Go ahead and go out and buy a gun and kill everyone. That's probably the only philosophy that you learn from the playing video games. So, but I know there are some good games too with the philosophy. So if you are trying to buy your children those video games, try to find something that has some philosophy in it. So philosophy is very critical, and the Bible and the Christianity teaches us, enable us to have certain philosophy. Ideology. Ideology is also is a part of philosophy. It's a philosophy about your politics and how the world or society or community should be run and or governed. So ideology is more of on politics and power, authority, these things. The definition of ideology is much of political. This is America, right? The right and left, Republican and Democratic. Who's for more for the rich people or more for the less rich people? I mean, this is the ideology. Because the reason that we have ideology is because the politics cannot satisfy everyone, every population. That's not possible. That has never been possible. When there is a power, there is a corruption. When there is corruption, then it breaks down. Then they rebuild. And when they rebuild, they think it's going to be better. But the same thing, because a human doesn't change. Another corruption comes in, then you have to change the system. That's where the ideology comes in. Ideology is a political value. It suggests certain things for the politics. So this is a definition of ideology, and thankfully the Bible also includes some ideology. Definition 1, a manner or the content of thinking, characteristic of an individual, group, or culture. So the first definition is pretty close to the definition of philosophy. So philosophy and ideology in that sense is pretty much similar, the same thing almost same thing. And number 2 definition, that integrated assertion, theories, and aims that constitute a socio-political program. That's probably the second one here is the most popular definition that we follow. So that's the definition of most popular definition of ideology. And that's just about socio-political program or perspective. Number 3, a systematic body of concepts, especially about human life or culture. The third definition is very similar to the first one, and is close to what we know as a philosophy. So in general, philosophy and ideology, people does not especially distinguish, but we will follow the second definition, distinguishing philosophy from ideology and ideology from philosophy. So ideology is more about the social political system and social political program and socio-political perspective, how you see the power. And God tells you that there are teachings regarding the ideology. So Christianity includes system of meaningful concepts on life and theories and aims of a socio-political context and thoughts and ideas for individuals and groups. So thus, Christianity is also a system of ideology. There's no doubt about it, no dispute about it. Now, ethics. We all know ethics. So Christianity, of course, it has a lot of ethics that teaching. Ethics definition is a moral principle that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. Okay. And the second definition says the branch of knowledge that deals with moral principles. So, ethics again, they say it's a moral principles. So ethics is a moral principle. So you need to know what the moral is. Ethics basically deals with two subjects, right or wrong, good or evil. But when we deal with the good or evil, then it becomes a matter of philosophy and values and religion. So if you take that away, ethics basically says about right and wrong. And each culture has a different ethics, standard of ethics, right? And for example, in Korea, I don't know if it's the same still today, but in Korea, you're not supposed to ask for handshaking to a lady. See, a man should not go ahead and start the handshaking with a girl. And you are not also supposed to put your hand for handshake to an elderly people. I don't know if it's the same in China. No. So that's kind of different, two different cultures. But I mean, we have a same Confucius ideal, and that came out of Confucius teachings. But it is different now. So that's kind of differences of different ethics. It's not only just etiquette; it has ethics. Because doing this is say wrong, and that means it's an ethic. So ethical standards are very different from culture to culture. And when you become a Christian, there are certain things, ethics. But Bible does not tell you about what to do, but more about why to do certain things and why you should not do certain things. So that's called principle. And many ethics has to do with the behaviors, how you act. But biblical ethics is more about principles. It's saying why you shouldn't do this and why you shouldn't do that. I talked about the divorce. Most cultures do not encourage divorce, but they have different reasons, and the Bible has a certain reason, not encouraging divorce. Because we believe once you are married, as a believer to a believer, Christian to a Christian, it's a God-made marriage. And if you divorce, you're saying God made a mistake. You made a mistake, and that goes against our principle. I mean, God is perfect; He knows everything, and you are to obey God. And then comes because you are in trouble with your partners, you say we should divorce. That's against God's teaching. So that's kind of principle that we are talking about. So Christian ethics has to do more with the principles rather than how you act. You may act as a Korean, Chinese, Japanese, or European, American, but there's certain principle we share as a Christian, whether you're a Korean Christian, Japanese Christian, doesn't matter. We share the same principle and we share the same ethical standard. So that's about the ethics. The ethics says the basic concept and the fundamental principle of decent human conduct. So how do you define a decent human conduct? It varies by your culture. I mean, this culture says this is a decent the human conduct, and that culture says no, that's not the decent human conduct. So the Bible is suggesting there is a certain decent human conduct if you are a God-made human being, and you should follow this and that. Probably the best principle that you have, everyone has, is your conscience. If you follow your conscience, most of the time it is right. You cannot be wrong. So culture may say different things, but all the conscience, I mean, just decent human being has a proper conscience. We know that it is not good to steal from someone else, not asking. So that's common sense, and it's there in your conscience, maybe there or there. So, and there is another study. It includes study of universal values such as, and where is it that universal value is conscience? And the Bible says this is the truth. Because it's truth, it has universal value. So every religion says this is a universal value, everyone should believe in it, and everyone should trust. And okay, before we go to the next let's have a little quiz before the break, and you can just finish your key quiz and you can go to your break. And please come back at 11. And if you haven't checked the attendance, please do so. Yeah, don't worry about it. You just do whatever you know, and there's no grade to it. And if you took it, you get the full grade. So don't worry about getting everything right. For those who are new to this class for today, there's a blank page at the end. and all these things and tell you what to do.
Okay.
That's the shaman. Importanism is worshipping of things, stones, big trees, river, mountain, they worship those things. Yeah, so those are the old folk, so-called folk religion, and this is Buddhism. Okay, when you're done with your quiz, just take your break and come back. Okay. The right answers, because the final, probably we're going to have 20 questions at the final, and it's picked exactly from your quiz. So if you study your quiz, then probably you're going to get 100% on the final as well. So let's go over the quiz. And this is quiz number 1, and we basically covered the chapter 1 and some of the chapter 2. Question number 1, choose the best answer to the question. That's one of the style of the quiz. Number 1, the reason that we need to study Christianity is not it is fundamental to Western civilization, and not to understand it, it is critical to know what the Christianity is. Number B, it is one of the major world religion, true. C, it builds your common knowledge, it should. And D is an answer, it is for the fun. You may do it for the fun, but not in this class. Okay, number 2, the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods, is known as the religion. Number 3, which of the following is not one of major topic ideals in a religion? Topic deals in a religion. Spirit, ethics, salvation, technology. Answer is D. Technology. Yeah, we may deal with it, but it's not a major topic in any religion. Number 4, which of the following is not considered as a primitive folk religion? The answer is a Buddhism. Even though it's an ancient religion, it's not a folk religion. Number 5, which of the following is considered as a major organized religion? All of the above. All of the above. Answer is E.
So hold on. Sorry, so question 4, answer is A, right? Buddhist.
Buddhism.
Okay.
Number 4.
So Buddhism is a very highly organized religion, and it's not considered as a primitive folk religion. Okay, please fill in the blanks with the most appropriate word. The quality or state of being true is truth. T-R-U-T-H, truth. The definition of truth is the quality or state of being true. Number 7, the integrated reality that is whole, coherent, and distinctive to particular group of people is called context.
Oh, context.
C-O-N-T-E-X-T. You might consider the culture, but context is larger than culture. Number 8, the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things is called spirituality. My God. Yeah, it's spelled spirituality. Spirituality. In Korean, we say Yongseo. Chinese, pretty similar, right? Yongseo. Spirituality, how do you say in Chinese?
精神 精神
Jingchen. Okay. Now, true or false? Number 9, human spirituality includes spirit, soul, and body. Okay, the statement is true. Number 10, religion and spirituality are the same thing. No, it's two different things. It's similar, but it is not the same. So it is false statement. So just give your own score on the top. Don't be ashamed if you didn't get anything. It's okay. I mean, it's a learning process. But you should have a correct answers from the review. And please keep it. Don't lose it, because it's going to come out in your final test.
A， 你写的 C。哦，那个是 A 吗？我听他讲是 A 啊。
Okay, let's continue with the chapter. We're still on chapter 2, right? We should hurry. But I'm not in a hurry because we're just covering it right. So, yeah, please help out each other to confirm the right answer. Ethics. Another definition is a group of moral principles or sets of values that define or direct us to the right choice. Here, they emphasize the right choice. Because the moral ethic is there, so you can make the right choice for your life and even for others. When you're in a leadership position, not only you are making decisions for your own own sake, but you're also making the decisions for someone else's sake. That's why the leadership is not easy. And as a family, a mom and dad, what's your responsibility also involves making this moral choice, moral ethical decisions. And if you are not making proper, correct, right ethical decisions, think, what your children's going to learn. So it is critical and important for you as a parent to be able to make the right decisions. And as a Christian parents especially, they learn from you as a believer. And sadly, many Korean first generation Christian parents fail to make those right decisions. That's why many of the younger Korean generation in America and also in Korea, those who were in church, raised in church, they leave church not because they think there is no God, but think they didn't see the right decisions, ethical decisions from their mom and dad. So it is sad. So I say it is important for us as a parents, especially Christian parents, to make right decisions according to the Bible and according to your conscience. So it's between right and wrong. There's no between. Oh, there are things what we say a gray area. Have you heard of it? Gray area. But even those gray areas, when you think deeply, it involves ethical decisions, right and wrong. Some of the examples of gray area, whether I wear the black shirts or white shirts, doesn't have, it has nothing to do with the ethics. Some culture, yes, but in America you can wear whatever you want to, as long as you don't reveal everything, so it's fine. But I mean, just 20 years ago in Korea, you are not supposed to wear the certain dress to the school, and you are limited in this sense. So there is a right and wrong in even dress code. But many times, what you eat, what you wear, what you drive, it has nothing to do with the ethics. Most of the time. So those are called gray areas. So ethics, accountability, principles, integrity, and values. These are very similar. I mean, these things there are involved in ethical decisions. So you should have right moral principles, integrity, and right values to make a right ethical decision. And the Christianity, the Bible has everything, all these things written and very specific. These principles are specific, it's not vague. That's why we think the Christianity is the truth. And if it's true, it is true. If it is true, it has to be right. And it cannot be wrong. The truth always is right. That's what why ethics is important in Christianity. Everyone who knows what is the right thing to do and does not do it commit a sin. It's from James in the Bible. So if you know the thing, what is right, and the Bible teaches you and commands you, orders you to do it. So knowing and doing are two different, separate things. But if you are a true believer, you are going to exercise what you know and what you believe in your heart. That's what the Bible teaches. And all other religions do the same thing, and not only just Christians. So ethics covers these things. Christianity teaches divine ethics, right from wrong, proper sexuality, relational ethics, work ethics, business ethics. So even it tells you what to sell and how you should sell it and how you should treat the customers, and all these things are in the Bible actually. They are there. And proper sexuality, the Bible teaches you are not supposed to engage in a premarital sex, or even it teaches the fundamental Christian belief that homosexuality is not right, and it is wrong, and it is sin. I'm being careful because you have to be politically correct in an educational institution, but my personal belief is that it is the wrong thing to do, just like stealing is a sin. So there are certain things that Christians believe to be right and wrong. And sometimes that's a very distinctive thing for a person to tell which is right and which is wrong. So the laws, ethics kind of sets a boundary, while the law is very specific about telling what to do and what not to do. So law is like a branch to a tree, while the ethics is the stump. Laws are more specific, and laws can change from situation to situation. While the ethic is a principle, it does not change, but the laws can be changed. So that's the difference between the ethics and the law. So when we think of law, we are thinking of the civil law, the government has a certain laws that we are to be to follow. We are bound by those laws. You can drive 45 miles at speed when the sign says 45 miles per hour. If you go faster than that, you may get the ticket. That's the law. But Christianity as a religion, as a system, as a belief, it does have certain laws to follow. Definition of the law is this. A binding custom or practice of a community, and it explains a rule of conduct or action prescribed or formally recognized as binding or enforced by a controlling authority. So the law has a certain set of sayings about how people should live, and it is enforced by the authority. And that's a civil law that we all follow. So each law, not only it says what to do and what not to do, but there's somebody who is forcing that. Same thing with the Bible, biblical law. God has given certain laws, and Moses, one of those biblical characters, he had received and written it on a stone, and which we know as the 10 Commandments. And after the 10 Commandments, God continues to give those laws, and the first 5 books of the Bible, if you have read one, the first 5 books of the Bible has to do with the law, and in the Jewish tradition they call it Torah. Torah means those 5 books. So until you get at the age of 12, every male child is to memorize those 5 books. It's thick, and you develop a good memory by doing that. So if you are to pass unto adulthood, you are supposed to memorize all 5 books, first 5 books of the Bible, because the law is very important in Jewish community, Israel, because they didn't have any other law. I mean, for them, their civil law is the Bible, those 5 books. It's like our constitution, our government laws. The same thing for the Israelites. They have to know those 5 books so they can be a citizen of Israel. So civil law and religious law in Israel for Jews is the same. It's just same for the Islam. Any of us are Muslim here? Believe in Islam, Quran? No? Okay, there's. Okay. So I'll try to speak to the respect of Islam religion. And for Islam, the law, the Quran is the law itself. I mean, most of the civil law is within that boundary, and it doesn't go beyond the Quran. So that's how it is. For Christian, it should be the same. I mean, what Christian we believe should be the same within the range of civil law. And another definition says the whole body of such customs, practices, or rules. So that's the definition of the law. And we know this symbol. The symbol is how you weigh. So you put the standard weight over here, and the things you want to measure, and if it balances, so we call that as a balance, right? And the main thing with the law is to balance. That balance symbolize justice. So justice is the key to the law. And the God is a just God. He is just. And that's why God gives the law. And He wants the justice. And this symbol represents the justice. And law, specific judgment. It gives you a specific judgment. And it's objective judgment, not individual subjective judgment. You can say this is right, and someone else say this is not right. And the law says you both should agree to this. That's the function of law. And the law says this is the right thing to do as a community. Thus makes it objective. So by having the law, you avoid the subjectivity of ethics, personal ethics. You may have your personal ethics, but the law covers and goes beyond that. And there's a certain scale, the scale, the balance, and acceptable parameters, and there is sets of limits, and the law also justifies and it suggests certain principles. So that's the function of law, and the Christian does have these things. Christianity provides binding custom, appropriate practices, proper behaviors, detailed rules, and the rule of conduct. Thus, we have the law. Christian has the law. And in the Bible, it's from New Testament, Luke. And it is easier for heaven and earth to pass than one pronunciation mark of the law to fail. So, heaven and earth is not going to change. Just as it is, the law should stay. That's how the Christian, even the New Testament Christians, they respected the law. When they say this law, it is talking about those 5 books, the Pentateuch, Torah. Okay, finally, the instructions. Bible has many instructions, and the Christian churches, they have developed certain set of instructions to follow. As an instruction definition, number 1, an outline or manual of technical procedure. Number 2, definition for instructions, a direction calling for compliance, order, usually used in plural. Number 3, the definition, a code that tells a computer to perform a particular operation. So we are not following the third definition, but the second definition is relevant for us, and those are the definition of the instructions for us. So these are probably the form of what the instructions does. It defines, it locates, it calculates, suggests, and contrast, complete, identify, compare, discuss, and these things. So those are the example of instructions. So in your life, and especially mom and dad, you give instructions to your children. And if you're still not married, your mom and dad, if they're still with you, they'll give you instructions. And for Korean students, the instructions from parents are called chansori, right? And in Korean culture, this 잔소리, those little instructions are annoying. I mean, same thing. In Asian culture, parents tell these little instructions to do this and to do, not to do that and all these things. And it becomes those little instructions. And but the Bible is not so much concerned with those little instructions, but it gives basically how to plan, how to do it, and how to assess it, how to analyze it, and basically your life. So the biblical instruction has to do how to follow, how to know God's will, and how to obey, and then actually do it. Then come back and sit down and meditate on what you have done, and then you review it, analyze it, and do it again. So that's Christian life, and there are quite a few instructions given to believers. And Proverbs 19:20. This is from Old Testament in the Bible. Hear counsel and receive instruction, that you may be wise in your latter end. So what the instruction does is to make you wiser. Or if you're wise, then you'll follow instructions. There are those biblical instructions, especially in Proverbs. There are many of those instructions. What to do, what not to do, how to do it. And what instruction does is if you follow those good instructions, and you'll have easier latter days. Your life is going to be more mature and will filled with the happiness. So thus it is key for us to know the instructions. Not only to know those instructions, but to follow. That's what the Bible is teaching for Christians. It teaches those things: how to worship, where to worship, and how to make disciples, how to love your wife and your husband, and how to respect others, and how to share your faith. These are the things, the specific instructions given in the Bible. But the Christianity is not so much about instructions, but it is more about the principles. Once you know the principles, then you are going to know how to behave and what to do and what not to do. So instructions are there for the younger Christians, younger believers. And if you just try to abide or bound by instructions, and then you become a legalist. Legalist means just following instructions without knowing the principles behind it. And Jesus, he is the one who hated those legalists, and he commanded them not to do so. So that's okay. The next lesson, chapter 3, is brief Christian history, and we'll look into it. So to understand the Christianity, what it is important to know history. Any subject, the history is important. Whether you're doing science, art, always it involves history. So without knowing history, you're not coming to the deep essence of that subject. Even a person if you know a person, and you gotta know that person's personal history. Without knowing that, you're not actually knowing that person. So when you come across a person, especially when you're trying to marry someone, it is key to know that person's history, how he or she was born, raised, grew up, what he or she liked and disliked, and how does likes has changed throughout the course of life, and what his or her friends are. These things formulate a person. Same thing with a certain subject, Christianity. If you understand the Christianity today, you gotta know the history. And it involves a lot of people and a lot of events. But I cannot do that in this 20-hour class. So I'll just squeeze it into compact form and just go over it quickly and just give you an idea about Christianity. Because this history of Christianity itself is one study area. I can have a 20-hour, 40-hour class on the subject. So we'll just cover Old Testament era today briefly. And for the Jews and those Muslims as well, the Christianity shares its common root. So it's pretty much the same. Whether we believe in Quran or just Torah or in the Bible, the root is the same. So this Old Testament era, there's a belief in Yahweh, the same God, the same as Allah, and the difference we are making as a Christianity is we say three gods in one, while Judaism and Islam they only believe in one God and period. So that's kind of difference. But until it becomes a Christianity by Jesus Christ and church beginning to take Trinity as a doctrine, it's still the same. So Yahweh or Jehovah God is the ultimate creator. He's the reason for our existence. And He's the Almighty God. And He's the only one who is worthy of worship. So these are the image of Yahweh God, a powerful God. But less of a wonderful God at the time, but it becomes a wonderful and a merciful God later on. But at the beginning, it is a powerful God. That's the first thing, powerful Almighty God. That's the Yahweh belief. And that Yahweh belief is still there in Christianity. So we believe in the same God Almighty. And He's the powerful, He's always all present, and He's almighty, and He's all-knowing. So this is probably one of the key aspects. These are the key aspects of Yahweh. And because He's the all-knowing God, He cannot fail. He cannot make a mistake. I'll go more specific on that later on in the class. And the Messianic belief, we still share. I mean, the Christianity, Judaism, and Islam shares on this Messianic idea. There's going to be someone that coming into human history to save the human generation, and it's the Messiah. So we believe in the Messiah who's going to come into the history, into the world, to save all human generation. And Christianity believes that Messiah is Jesus Christ, the son of Joseph in the Nazareth. So that's where the difference comes. And the Jews and Islam, I believe, still waits for the Messiah to come. So that's where the difference lays. And Zionism, the Jews still believe in that the Zion, the coming nation. So nation of Israel, the nation of Jews, will rule over the whole earth. So they are going to be the supreme nation or supreme people who's going to rule the whole earth. That's the heart of Zionism. And then the country of Israel is continuing to prepare for that dream. And they are doing everything possible in their power to make that Zionism come to realize. That's why the Israel and the other Middle East countries having the conflict. And because no one wants to be ruled by another nation or people, and that's the cause of the conflict. But still, they use all their resources, the money, and I heard that I think it's correct. The Israel had already prepared all the materials for the new temple, and they are to destroy the Islamic temple in Jerusalem, and then place their own temple at that place. That's the political Zionism. And if you try to understand the conflict in the Middle East, you need to know what the Zionism is aiming at. But Christians, we don't think, Jerusalem is the per se the Jerusalem now, but a New Jerusalem. We believe in New Jerusalem, which is different from that particular location. And if you go to Jerusalem, there are three sectors, right? Christian region, and then the Muslim quarter, and then Jewish quarter. So three. That kind of symbolizes what we are going through as a world religion. But funny thing is, ironic thing is, they all came out of the same belief of Yahweh, the great God, Allah. And fourth, Abraham and Moses. I'm sure that the Islam religion also shares the same respect for Abraham and Moses. So these are the roots. And Abraham and Moses are the two main figures in Judaic religion, and it's the same thing for the Christianity. Without Moses and Abraham, no, we do not have a root. So us Christians, the New Testament believers, have pretty much respect for Abraham and Moses. Those are two main figures that we probably will talk about later again. Okay, next. I already talked about Torah and patriarchs. These are the Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Joseph. These are the main characters in the patriarch age. So these are all Abraham, father, then his son Isaac, and Isaac's son Jacob, and Jacob's son Joseph, who ends up in Egypt. And you gotta know those stories. I mean, without knowing those stories, you are not really going to understand the Christianity. So if you're into understanding Christianity or even Islam and Judaism, it's key to know these four major figures. They are like a tribal captain, the head. But the stories, the narratives that we read in the Bible, it always has to do with God, the Yahweh God, telling Abraham to just leave and go to the new place, and then he follows that instruction. And then later on, Joseph is sold to Egypt, and God is there to with Joseph. All these stories. And Exodus, after 400 years living in Egypt, the Jews, they come out of Egypt, and that's called Exodus. And the Canaan conquest, they come into Canaan, which is the troubled region, the Palestine for today. So this conflict between the Israelis or Jews and the Palestine started way long ago, many years ago, and that's why they're still fighting one another, and wasn't able to resolve that conflict because of their religious belief. So the religion, sometimes it comes for the peace, but many times religion also becomes the cause of the conflict, which is actually against the teaching of any religion. You are to be peaceful with one another. That's always the teaching of any religion, whether it's Buddhism, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, even Hinduism. They all teach about being peace with one another. So, it is our job as a Christian or believers of any religion to just come up with that peaceful resolution. And to do so, first thing to do is give yourself up. And that's not easy, but the Bible tells you and teach you to do so. We'll continue on these stories next week, and have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thank you.